Welcome to Video Skillet TV Podcast. My name is Donald Dienst, and this is The Construct. From here, I'll be able to share or create whatever it is I need to fully explore our topic. Today's topic is voting. And here's a primer.
America. Beautiful, isn't she? But we have to work hard to keep her that way. How do we do that, you ask? Voting. That's how.
What's voting?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Billy. You see, voting is the most important part of being an American. Because in America, we have what's called a democracy.
So what's a democracy?
Well, you see, Billy, when God created America, he blessed us with a government that lets us have a say in how things work.
So you mean we have the right to choose?
I wouldn't go that far. But we do have it a lot better than all those other places.
Ew, this place stinks. Why would anyone want to live here?
Ha! Beats all heck out of me, kid.
So how do I do it? How do I vote in a democracy?
I'm charmed by your curiosity. Here, let me show you how it all works. When it's time to vote, you head to your assigned voting stations and step into what's called a booth. Once you've decided who or what you'd like to vote for, you pull the magic lever and presto! You've just voted! The voting machine then uses radio waves to beam your vote up to the moon, where a giant brain-looking alien creature we call Salazar tallies up all the votes and beams the results back to Earth.
All hail Salazar!
No, Billy. Then, an elite group of mathematicians and other smart people eventually make up their own minds about who wins and who loses.
What's that wizard doing there?
He's magic. You see, Clarence...
Billy,
it's just that simple.
Well, gee whiz, I want to vote right now.
Well, you can. All you have to do is be an 18-year-old American citizen.
I'm only 17.
Billy, who's that you're talking to?
What did you say your name was again, mister?
My name's not important. I'm going to go explain things to your mother now. Why don't you start practicing for the big day?
Hey, Nito!
Why don't you explain it to me, firmly, yet passionately?
Vote. It's the least you can do.
Now that's interesting. But today I'd also like to talk about IVR, voting machines, and going out and voting. IVR is a very interesting method of voting which doesn't disenfranchise people who want to vote for their favorite candidate, even though he has very little chance of winning. So, to explain the IVR, I've selected these 3 videos from the internet.
I hate the fact that I can't vote for the candidate I want because I know she's not going to win, and I'll just be throwing my vote away.
What I hate is going to the polls twice for the same race when there's a runoff election. I usually end up not going the second time.
I don't really care how we vote as long as it requires the fewest elections. I'm tired of the city wasting my time and my tax dollars on election after election.
Instant runoff voting, also known as ranked choice voting, is one election improvement that solves all of these problems. With instant runoff voting, voters rank the candidates in their order of preference. If no candidate receives a majority, then instead of having to hold a runoff election, voters whose first choice candidate received the fewest number of votes have their second choice vote counted instead. So no runoff election is necessary.
So I don't have to go back and vote again? Thank goodness! My boss will like that too.
And not holding a runoff election saves millions of taxpayer dollars.
Great! Let's spend it on something more important.
And with IRV, you can vote for who you want because there is no spoiler effect.
Finally, no more wasted votes.
For more information on instant runoff voting, go to www.fairvote.org/IRV.
I'm gonna vote for who I want to.
No. Don't vote for the person you want to win, because if you do, the person you don't want to win will win. All your vote will win.
Okay.
You know, there's a better way to vote called instant runoff voting. It's a system that lets you vote your hopes rather than your fears. It's used all around the world. San Francisco, Ireland, Australia, even major sports awards use it.
Oh man, I want to vote for that.
Oh man, it'll never happen. That sounds like a good fantasy, though.
You can stop wishing. Take a look. It's on the ballot right now.
Look at that!
How does it work?
Instant runoff voting lets you rank the candidates you like in the order you like. If someone gets the majority of number 1 votes, they're elected. If not, the candidate with the fewest votes is gone. If that was your first choice, then your second choice is counted. That way there are no wasted votes. IRV eliminates the spoiler factor. Instead of voting against people, you can vote for who you want to without helping your least favorite candidate.
Oh, wow.
That does sort of kind of make sense.
Oh man, I'm gonna vote for that. I hope it wins.
Yeah, I just had a general question. Is IRV being used anywhere else, and is it working?
What?
Is IRV being used anywhere else, like
San Francisco, Oakland?
and how is it working? And
IRV is being used in a wide variety of jurisdictions. Up north in San Francisco, it was voted in 2002. It's been used since 2004. Over there, it's worked very well. In fact, voter turnout has gone up 168% overall. And if you look at the 6 most diverse neighborhoods in the city, IRV actually raised voter turnout went up by over 300%. And it's not just in San Francisco. Minneapolis just voted to adopt IRV. Oakland is in the process of implementing IRV. Santa Fe, New Mexico, just voted to have IRV. And in fact, Ireland has used IRV to elect its president since 1938. So this is nothing new. And this is part of a national movement that people are embracing because it makes common sense, it helps voters, and it saves tax dollars. So that's pretty much its pedigree and record to date.
I was talking to a friend on the bus. This isn't my question. But we were talking about this event, and he said he was not... It's a good idea, but he was against it because it's just going to confuse voters. People have a hard enough time with yes and no. To put in 1, 2, or 3 is just going to be too baffling. Again, not my question, but it's a concern that he brought up. So,
one thing is that maybe folks aren't used to voting 1, 2, 3 that way, but we do it all the time in real life. You go to an ice cream store, they don't have vanilla. What do? You go for your second choice. Maybe it's chocolate, maybe it's hazelnut, who knows. But in the voting area, people catch on really quickly. And in fact, in San Francisco, what we've seen is that after IRV was introduced, 87% of voters surveyed said that they understood it quite well. In fact, 90% of Latino voters said they understood it and understood how to use it. So, certainly it'll take some voter education, and that we are fully prepared to do. And they did a really successful campaign in San Francisco, and there's a really good track record on which we can build. But after that education is done, voters get it.
Thank you for your comments. My name is Larry Herrera, and I'm the city clerk for the city of Long Beach, and it was nice to come across the river today to visit you here. But my question had to do with a couple of things. Has there been any work or any analysis done to determine whether or not there are any risk of federal voting rights violations with respect to instant runoff voting? And then secondly, would you see any advantage to, let's say, putting a charter amendment on in 2009, or if you're in Long Beach, 2010, calling for instant runoff voting, but holding it off until a future election? I'm wondering if that makes it, allows elected officials in the community to adapt to change, lets the systems catch up. I'm curious as to what your comments are on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, basically courts have actually examined IRV in the past, and no court has ever found that, or rather I'll phrase it positively, IRV has been found to comply with the Voting Rights Act. No challenge has ever held up when it comes to IRV. The second question had to do with implementation. Now, that takes a little bit of time, as you can know, because you have to train people, you have to reconfigure machines, and that typically takes 1 to 2 years. In our proposal for instant runoff voting for Los Angeles, we propose that you have an election, this be put on the ballot for November '09, but it not be implemented until 2011, in time for the city elections there, because you need to get it right. That's very important.
Who should I vote for? Such a tough decision. Oh, hi there. I see you're back. I was just trying to figure out who to vote for. Voting is very interesting. For the longest time, and in many places in the country, they have paper ballots, which led to a big problem in Florida with punch chads, or hanging chads as they called it. But in New Jersey, which is where I am, we've had machines for a long time, and the machines have slowly gotten more and more electronic. Now, the early machines used a method of mechanical levers so that you pull the handle, and once all your votes are tallied, you then pull the lever, and it would increment counters in the back. And then at the end of the day, someone would open the machine and read off the numbers, and those numbers would go to a central office, or to Salazar or whatever, and they would get tallied, and the numbers would move up the line. Obviously, the weaknesses in there is always the human link and reading off the numbers and making sure everything matches. But at least there's numbers to match. The next step was to put a simple electronics in the loop, which is what I believe the modern New Jersey machines do. They give readouts for the various votes, which get sent from the machines to the central offices. Similar way, except instead of a mechanical lever moving it, it's an electronic count. The newest forms of voting machines, which are touch screens where you slide a card or enter a number and it keeps total of the votes in there and then transmits those totals to a centralized system, and the counts are tallied automatically, have had questions raised about them because of the software that's inside. The software can be modified, it can be hacked, it's not secure. There's two ways of dealing with that. One way is open source software, so everyone can see the source code. That still doesn't stop someone from slipping in a little something extra. There really isn't much you can do in terms of such systems. So what do? The important thing, I think, is to always have a paper trail. Have the system where you enter your vote, the vote is recorded on paper, shown to the person, they acknowledge, that gets rolled onto a reel, and the next person comes in and votes. That way, if the vote is ever challenged, you can always tally up the hard copy reel, which has been visually verified by the voter. This, I think, is the best way to go. But here are a few videos that deal with the topic.
Tuesday in November, I took that stroll to cast my ballot at the local poll. The lines were long, but I didn't care. I had water, a hat, and my folding chair. Walked up to the booth, didn't say a word. Sure that my voice would be heard. I hit that button, my vote was sent, but now nobody knows exactly where it went. They lost my vote, it isn't fair. I took a stand, doesn't anybody care? They lost my vote, now do you know where did my ballot go? After the election, I was filled with pride, waiting for my vote to be verified, looking for the news of my country's fate. The election was over, now there's no more debate. I surfed the TV all night long, wanted to know what was going on. To get me some honest information, I watched Jon Stewart on the comedy station. They lost my vote, it isn't fair. I took a stand, doesn't anybody care? They lost my vote, now do you know where did my ballot go? Wanted to make sure that democracy was working the way that it was supposed sympathy. I just wanted someone to listen to me the way the Constitution promised me. If we can land a rocket ship on the moon, or make a cell phone ringing off a favorite tune, we can send sound waves through the air, then voting machines should be counting fair. Anyone can hack the files and push delete. There'd be no proof and I got no receipt. So let's get the system under control, and the final results will match the exit poll. They lost my vote, it isn't fair. I took a stand, doesn't anybody care? They lost my vote, now do you know where did my ballot go? Lost my faith in the government when they changed the rules without my consent. Don't wanna be nobody's experiment. Just wanna know where my ballot went. They lost my vote, I made my choice. Does anybody care to hear my voice? They lost my vote, was that the plan? Nobody knows that I took a stand.
About 29% of registered voters, that's about 50 million people, are expected to use these electronic touchscreen machines next week. That's about double the number in the last election, and there is some concern.
These are new machines.
When we use electronic voting machines, we can think of it as a black box because we as human beings cannot look into that computer and see the internal bits. It's hidden from us. So as far as we're concerned, it could be just a big black box.
Is there any type of paper receipt that you get that confirms your vote?
No. The only confirmation you get is on the machine.
Since we can't see inside there, we can't know or we can't feel sure that what goes in terms of our votes stays there and actually gets counted.
There's a fundamental problem with the whole concept of a computer touchscreen machine. If there's a problem, there's no way of identifying the problem and fixing it if you have a machine that does not involve paper.
I want to mention something about conspiracy. No one has yet explained to my satisfaction the difference between a conspiracy and a long-range business plan. My primary area of activity has been to alert people to the dangers of electronic voting. The voter, him or herself, cannot determine whether or not their ballot choices have been recorded accurately in the computer. The computer can show one thing on the screen, but be recording something else internally. But the second and worst problem is that nobody can observe the ballots being counted. This is the fraudulent voting machine, and it's a demonstration that shows people what's wrong with electronic voting. It says, click here to start voting. That's where the voter goes into the booth. There's only one race because it's only a demonstration for teaching purposes. John Doe versus Mary Smith for president. I'm going to vote John Doe. I go to verify my ballot. And if there's no voter verified paper audit trail and there's no audit, everybody thinks that this is good. Because I voted for John Doe, it says John Doe, I say correct. It says poll worker may close the booth, we'll assume it's the end of the election day. And here's my final total. Now you can see that the vote was switched. But here's the kicker. If you're the election director, you are 100% within your rights to say, we had a perfect election. We had one voter, we have one ballot. I see no problems. And that's the problem with electronic voting. You see no problems.
What you really need is either a paper ballot in the first place, or you need to develop an electronic device where you vote on the electronic interface, and then the machine itself produces a paper ballot based on your choices that you then look at and put in the ballot box in the old-fashioned way.
Computers are the new 21st century threat to fair and full and democratic participation in the voting process.
In North Carolina, over 4,000 ballots are gone forever, lost when a voting machine passed its arbitrary limit. In South Florida, election officials were horrified to see vote totals start counting down after they hit 32,000.
One of the insidious things about touchscreen voting machines is that if there is foul play, it can, at least in theory, be perpetrated invisibly. You can cover your tracks completely.
All three voting systems have significant security and reliability vulnerabilities, which pose a real danger to the integrity of national and state elections.
Even if there is auditability in the system, the programmer, the rogue programmer, can change the audit trail as well. And this is something that's unprecedented.
You can change the software, you can infect the system with a virus.
Gaming systems, like your Microsoft Xbox 360 or Sony PlayStation 3, are engineered to resist a wide variety of tampering attacks. That level of engineering is entirely absent from voting machines.
With these machines, you can alter the outcome of a national election undetectably in a way that is just unprecedented in terms of its reach and the power to really play around. For those reasons, we should be much more careful of these machines than we've ever been in the past, and the evidence is actually we're being less careful.
Perhaps you're thinking of not voting. After all, if your candidate's not going to get elected, why should you? It's by voting in that ultimate poll and by voting your conscience that you inform those in government of your views and values. And there's a lot to lose by not voting. Watch this video and find out.
Just what would have to change to be sure to lose what we have? Suppose this is the night before a national election. Suppose you sat in this room and saw and heard this.
Let me sum it up this way. You are going to vote tomorrow in an election which will do one of two things. Keep our limited government with its constitutional freedoms, rights, and responsibilities, or change them for unlimited government and a planned economy.
We've already amended the Constitution dozens of times. Let's throw it away for a master plan run by a master state.
Would you care to reply to that?
I certainly would. At this time, there are some 10 million workplaces in the United States where we're free to make 10 million plans. We're free to try any new idea, new product, new service, a new anything. But we're free to try to make a profit, to just get by, or to fail. Some of us do fail every day, but enough of us succeeds every generation. We double our production of goods and services. Under a master plan, there'd only be one plan. With just one plan, there wouldn't be any room for a mistake. If anything went wrong with a master plan, the result would be a national disaster. And every man, woman, and child would suffer. Wait a minute. We know all we need to know about how to produce things. What we don't seem to know anything about is distribution. We haven't solved such things as full employment, real security, from each according to his ability and to each according to his need. Sure, that sounds good. But how are you going to do it? We're already on our way. We've partly socialized incomes. We're going ahead and socialize property, too. Let the people own the means of production, transportation, and communication. Let the people have full employment and full security.
But what price freedom? You talk about full security, full employment. Well, you can have that in a penitentiary. I'm here tonight because I believe in the right of an individual to be able to choose the kind of job he wants, with the company he wants to work for, in the part of the country he wants to live in. Yes, sir, freedom of choice right down to the brand of cigarettes he smokes or doesn't smoke. Government can't control everything without controlling me, what I can say and what I can't say. And I mean police control that tells me where I'll work, where I'll live, and all the rest of it.
Just words. The people know what they want. Vote against the old, ruthless, sick American economy with its private property and its so-called free competitive enterprise. Vote for the master state with the master plan.
Our time is almost up, but tomorrow you'll be able to vote to keep what we have, or to change for a total economy where everything will be run according to a master plan. For or against the master state, under the master plan. Thank you, and good night. Of course, it would never happen this way. Real freedoms are eaten up a little at a time, while government controls are slipped on, while the real power is collected into a few hands. Where government is not limited, no man is free. Change limited government to unlimited government, and our rights would be only what the master planners say they are. No longer the servant of the people, government would be the master of the people. That's the way to change what we have. Take all power and all freedoms away from the people and collect everything into the hands of one small group with absolute power. But, and think about this, we would have the same manpower, the same brains and muscles we had before, but without our present incentives and opportunities. And that would change something else. Tools always come from savings. Government has nothing it does not take away from the people. With unlimited government, whether they wanted to or not, force would have to be used to take away our savings, just to get the tools they must have to carry on production. It's the difference between force and freedom. Nobody in his or her right mind would willingly sacrifice freedom for the iron discipline of a regimented state. It can't allow individual freedom, such as our free choice as customers. In a free economy, we are all each other's customers. And fortunately, we have been able to raise our standard of living without sacrificing the spiritual side of life, which means so much to the American family. Our business system has continued to provide a better life for our increasing population, in spite of destructive forces which have pounded against our foundation of freedoms with no avail. However, wars, or the threat of wars, interrupt the normal operations of our competitive business system. And may result in government controls which crack essential blocks in our foundation of freedoms. In war emergencies, we allow government to restrict certain of our freedoms. But we Americans have learned to remove government controls as quickly as possible and to repair the blocks in the foundation of our freedoms to allow our business system to resume its normal operations. While we invest part of our savings to help finance the world's most efficient business system, at the same time we pay taxes to government to finance many kinds of services which also contribute to our way of life. But with our present tax load, we should avoid pressuring government for any new services that aren't absolutely necessary. Because we all know the more our government provides, the more taxes it's forced to collect. None of us can escape. Big business, small business, farmers, workers, housewives, and all of us have to pay our share. Demanding more and more from government could create a tax burden heavy enough to crack essential blocks in the foundation of our business system. Therefore, we shouldn't let our taxes reach a point where they destroy our ability to save and invest. For as we have seen, our rising standard of living depends upon a constant flow of savings dollars into our business system each year. In the future of our country, waves of destructive forces will continue to batter against our foundation. When any force weakens the interlocked blocks of our political and economic freedoms, as good citizens, we must be quick to use the tools our Constitution gives us and repair any cracks that may appear. When you look around and think about what we have, don't forget for a moment that we do have more individual freedom. We're better clothed. We're more comfortable. We're further from starvation than the whip of the police state. We're far better off than the rest of the world. We have our great men and women, and we have some flannel-mouthed fools, too. We all want to live in a better world. We all want to have more. But there's no mystery about what we have or how to lose it. Let's look straight into this one. Let's talk about how to lose what we have and what that would mean to you.
There are many problems and issues facing our government today. Some of them are relating to voting and how we vote and how we might vote better to get more people out and more people involved in the political process, to issues of government spending, of copyright, of a myriad of other things that are coming up in this digital age where government just is getting it wrong. It needs to change. And we need to be that change. We need to encourage that change. We need to talk to our representatives and encourage the blossoming change.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street. There's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe. Our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. Worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller. And all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living room. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to write. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value. Get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore! I want you to get up right now. Go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm as mad as hell, I'm not going to take this anymore.
This is my daughter, this is the face of the next generation. She will be left to pay all of the debts of this once great nation. She won't have everything I had and more. The money's been spent on bailouts, graft, and war. Crises are coming at a frightening speed. The dollar's collapsing and the banks all need another $5 trillion to balance their books on the back of the next generation. This is my daughter, born in the land of the free. She'll never know the way this country was meant to be. One place in the world where your life belonged to you. Not a king, not a pope, not the state did you need kneel down to. All the crises are coming at a frightening speed. The dollar's collapsing and the banks all need another $5 trillion to balance their books on the back of the next generation. This is my daughter. This is the face of the next generation.
Today you turn 18.
Yeah,
You know what that means.
I suppose.
Today you are a woman.
What's your point?
Well, being such, it is your civic duty to V.
Huh?
O.
Say what?
T.
That's a letter.
Now some people vote cause they think it's the law.
It's not.
And then for others, dirty sex is the draw.
Oh, man.
But the only motivation I need is a sticky motivation indeed. You can honestly say, in no way is it lacking. It's oval in shape with adhesive backing. Now reach out your hand, baby, pull down that lever. The V is a check mark. Now that's fucking clever.
The whole point of turning 18 is you're an adult. What do I want with a dumbass sticker?
Put it on your cheek, stick it on your clothes. In a pinch, it's an effective form of birth control. I've got one with a Brad Style, one with a Bassett, 12 piston cabins, each one of them classic. I had some that were stuck to Chiquita bananas, and several that were ripped off the Star Eric banner. But the sticker that speaks of democracy says a B-O-T-D. Yeah.
What do you say, baby? We can vote and go home and organize our sticker books for hours.
Aren't you too old to be in high school?
Yeah, but that's another great thing about voting.
You vote at a high school, and then when you're done, you can wander the halls, baby, have lots of fun.
That's illegal.
You can audit a gym class or break into lockers. You can...
Ow! Come on! So I'm politically active. What's the... Right on.
Well, those are some pretty good reasons to go vote. In fact, I'm feeling very motivated. I want my sticker. Well, I guess that's all we have, though, What? The Electoral College? We're covering that as well? Nobody even knows what that is. Well, I guess that's a good reason to figure it out. So let's watch these videos and see if we can make some sense of it.
So, the election's coming up, and I've been thinking, don't really know what my vote really means.
Well, this is your first election, right?
Yeah.
Well, do you know how the president is chosen?
Something to do with votes and some electoral school or something.
So what are you trying to ask me?
When we cast our vote election day, what happens to it anyway? Do we really choose who'll win or lose the race for president? Well, it isn't quite as cut and dried as who gets the most votes nationwide. The Electoral College will decide the race for president.
I still don't get it.
Here, let me see if I can explain it. Before the election in November, each political party puts together a group of electors who say they'll vote for that party's candidate in the Electoral College. The number of electors for each state is determined by the number of U.S. senators each state has, which is always 2, plus the number of representatives each state has in the House. Really populous states like New York and California have a high number of electors, while less populous states like Alaska and Wyoming have very few. In November, voters cast their vote for a block of electors, who in turn will vote for a particular candidate. So say a Democrat gets the most votes in Texas. That means the 34 Democratic electors in Texas become that state's voting bloc. There are 538 total electoral votes in the nation, which means that the candidate who gets 270 gets the majority and becomes president. In December, each state's electors get together and sign the Certificate of Vote, which is then sent to the office of the President of the U.S. Senate. Then in early January, the certificates are read and the official winner of the election is declared. So when you ask,
does my vote really count?
Now you know the answer.
Sort of.
Exactly. Hey, you know what? Now you know how the president is chosen. You just graduated from Electoral College.
When we cast our vote election day, what happens to it anyway? Do we really choose who'll win or lose the race for president? Well, it isn't quite as cut and dried as who gets the most votes nationwide. The Electoral College will decide the race for president. The Electoral College will decide the race for president.
So this electoral college thing, I don't get it.
Barrett, it's easy. Here, I'll explain it. Think of the states like employees in the office.
Okay.
Some states are more populated and powerful, like our VPs. Let's say that Josh is like California and Meg is like New York. The more populated the state, the more electoral votes that state gets. But like California and New York, they're really big and they have a lot of votes, but they're predictable. So candidates always focus on the swing states, like Florida and Ohio.
Okay, so who's Florida and Ohio?
Cassie and Aaron. Cassie because she oversees the expense accounts, and Aaron because he has access to the really good pens. They don't look too powerful on the outside, but life in the office without them would not be so sweet.
Got it. So then our HR, IT, and accounting departments each represent states like North Dakota, Idaho, and Wyoming. Not so populated.
And in this case, not so popular.
Right, so they don't have as many electoral votes, but if you don't pay attention to them, they can really add up and keep you out of the race.
Or withhold your paycheck.
So a really good candidate is going to focus more on the swing states, on the Cassies and the Aarons.
And score some fancy ball points.
Yeah, speaking figuratively. But if you can't get a Cassie or an Aaron, getting a Paul, Meredith, and Betsy state, a lot of them can equal a Josh or a Meg.
Sort of like how we covered for Josh when he's hungover.
Yeah, or Meg plays hooky to go shopping.
Exactly.
But in the end, it's the total number of electoral votes that counts. You need 270 of the 538 to win the presidency.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great, people, but around here it only takes 2 votes to get you fired, so can we get back to work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Electoral College enforces the principle of federalism, that is to say, state power.
What the Electoral College does, in essence, is force presidential candidates to compete in individual states, to learn about the interests of the various states, to build those concerns into their platform.
It prevents the candidates from campaigning only in the large media markets, which is what would happen if we got rid of the Electoral College.
The Electoral College is a constitutional mandate on how we choose the President of the United States.
How does it function? That's where it starts to get kind of interesting and complicated.
On the ballot, looks like people are voting directly for the President or the Vice President. They aren't.
Instead of just choosing them by popular vote throughout the country, each state has a number of electoral votes. Then whoever wins the plurality in that state gets all the electoral votes. And then whoever then has a majority of the electoral votes becomes president.
The Electoral College is a quirky system, to be sure. Very few nations of the world have anything like it. Generally speaking, nations rely on direct popular election to choose their national leaders, their presidents, their prime ministers.
The American people, to the extent that they understand the Electoral College, they view it as a weird device.
Even my fellow political scientists often have a hard time understanding it, and I do too.
Those electors go to the Electoral College and cast their vote for the winner of the popular vote in their state.
I was elector in 2004. The people in my community voted overwhelmingly Democratic. In the state of Connecticut, that was Carrie and Edwards. So it was the Democratic Party electors that went forward to cast their votes.
If the United States is a country both of people and of states, then the Electoral College is a better gauge of that national opinion than it would be if it was simply a popular vote.
Just checking you're still there. Well, that's the videos we have for today. Well, there's one more. It doesn't really have to do with voting, but it does have to do with creativity. And one of the reasons his creativity has inspired me to be creative myself. It's Dr. Steele and his vision of a utopian playland.
Building a utopian playland was made possible by the World Domination Fund, Dr. Steele's army of toy soldiers, and by viewers like you. I give the people what they want. Frankly, I give the people what they need. An escape from an ugly world. We live in a world full of despair. A world full of war, hunger, and fear. It is a very unhappy place indeed. I envision a world where the top priority of its people is to have fun.
So take my hand, we'll build a playland, build a playland, build a playland.
But we spend our lives in office buildings, behind cash registers, stuck in traffic jams, all the while wishing we were somewhere else, doing something else.
As children, there was nothing we wanted more than toys to play with, and nothing has changed. Except what the definition of a toy has become. In fact, in the Dr. Steele New World Dictionary, the new definition of a toy shall be toy. Noun, an object that makes you happy. Because that's all that it is, and that's all that really matters. Now, who wants to see the dancing monkey?
We are people manipulated through fear, and though that is a tried and true mechanism for control, it also generates hate and violence, and leaves us with feelings of despair, with no constructive focus in life. The time has come for a change. The time has come to make this world a better place.
The world is changing rapidly at the moment. Technology allows us to remain in constant communication with one another. The internet is maturing into an indispensable digital collective consciousness. Through drsteele.com, I have exposed my ideology to people across the globe in the click of a button. More importantly, I have been able to provide them with moments of joy, laughter, and entertainment.
Yes, I'm often asked who my demographic is, to which I answer, humans. You see, this is not just some product, some manufactured brand, no. This is a movement to which my toy soldiers will attest.
People from across the globe enlist, male and female, young and old, all of them looking to change their world.
The army will grow until it cannot be ignored. The people are hungry for change, and they will get it. But Dr. Steele, we've been bored for too long.
Now, you're actually building an army.
Indeed. It grows on a daily basis and stretches from Los Angeles to the United Kingdom. Recently, I had several people enlist from Israel. The support is tremendous, and it's this kind of hunger for a new worldview that will bring upon change and transform this world into a utopian playland.
I was first introduced to you through your music, but that's certainly not what you're all about. Would you say that most people are initially exposed to you through your music?
Yes, well, music is interesting. It's literally a language, and it is a powerful, unifying force. It's a medium that speaks to many, many people, and it creates culture. I use music to communicate, rally support, and I use music to entertain. What I have found is that if one aims to influence the world, to change the world, one must do so through entertainment. The media of today is the loudest voice, and it is the most influential. People are tired of bad news. They want entertainment. To entertain someone, and you have their attention. The world doesn't need a manager or a boss or a policeman. These aren't the heroes of today. The heroes of today are those who are doing what they want to be doing, having a good time, and introducing the one thing that every man, woman, and child hungers for on a daily basis. Happiness.
With continued support and the vision of making fun the top priority, we shall transform this world into a utopian playland. We must band together and resist the forces that keep us afraid, tired, and bored out of our minds. It is only as a collective, with a singular focused vision, that we shall overcome.
The future depends on you, for only you can help me take over the world.